I guess once I got the diagnosis, I actually went home and did what everyone does. Went to Dr. Google to look up all sorts of things. Didn't find very much online at all. Did find the Haemochromatosis Australia website. So that was very useful. In my case, it was a relief to have the diagnosis because it was pointed out that probably most, if not all, of my symptoms would ultimately improve or disappear, which is pretty much what happened.
It was more happiness to know that I'd finally gotten to the point where they could figure out what I had, and I didn't have to be tested or any more blood tests or anything like that to find out what I had. They all of a sudden just knew and could treat it.
I was relieved, yeah, to be honest, so that I knew what it was and that it could be dealt with. There's nothing worse than not knowing why you're feeling terrible. Once you know, and you know that, if all I have to do is get rid of some blood every now and then that's fantastic.
It was caught early enough that all of the research and the documentation and so on that I was reading basically suggested that as long as it was caught early, and a lot of the documentation was saying early as in 30s, and I was in my late teens when I was diagnosed. So the fact that it was super early that we caught it made it less scary.
With the iron levels that I showed and the age that I was at that time, it was unlikely I'd have any serious organ damage. I was also feeling fairly well within myself, wasn't experiencing the symptoms you'd normally get from haemochromatosis. So in one sense, I was just very grateful to be picked up at such a young age, because I know how serious it can get if you go undetected into your 50s and 60s.
We were lucky with him too. He was a very young doctor, but he had dealings with Haemochromatosis Australia through a friend.
His mother, wasn't it?
Or, yeah, something along those lines, who he actually knew what to look for, because we're finding now the conversation comes up all the time, because James has gone from a bit over 100 kilos down to 64 kilos at his worst time.
Currently 70. I'm actually a bit healthier than I was.
Yeah, which is not all haemochromatosis. Obviously the cancer's the issue there as well, but the amount of people that we speak to now and ask what caused it, blah, blah, that say, oh yeah, we've got high iron, our doctors told us just not to eat any red meat. You're like, well,
We know even personal family friends, we spoke to them last Christmas, and two of them sitting at the table said, oh yeah, my doctor said don't eat meat. And I said, did it work? He goes, nah, my iron level's still the same. So I think the ignorance out there is not just the general public, it's actually the medical industry. And I think they need to be educated a lot better about the disease.
When I did get the diagnosis, I think the GP was very surprised, because I think he was used to seeing men turn up with this condition. He didn't expect a woman to have this condition and have the sort of symptoms I did at my age, and I think that was because I had had a hysterectomy in my 30s, and so some of that protective mechanism whereby women are naturally losing blood each month and when they have children predominantly, I didn't have the same degree of protective mechanisms that other women have, because I had had an early hysterectomy. So yes, he wasn't expecting, he was very surprised when the specialist came up with this diagnosis, which did actually turn out to be correct.
The fact that I'd gone to the doctor to be, with no intention of having iron tests done, he just ran those as a part of a battery of other tests, and everything came back normal, and this was the one thing that was elevated. And the fact that I'd been working on this condition day in and day out, totally oblivious to the fact that I might actually have it myself, I guess it really just speaks to how common it is. I think that's what it rang home for me, is that if I can be this close to the condition and know so much about it, yet be totally unaware I have it. Firstly, it speaks to how common it is, but secondly, it sort of highlights how important it is that we raise awareness of this in the community for people that have never heard of the disease. How are they supposed to be picked up if they've never heard of this condition before?